If you're a pastor, I want you to think back to God forming Adam out of the dust. And in the Hebrew, it speaks of him taking intimate care in forming this human being out of the dust. And then I want you to think about when God puts Adam into a deep sleep, into like a coma. In the Hebrew, it's close to death, right? It's related to death, he's sinless. Remember, he's sinless at this point, and he takes that and he wounds him, gashes him right on the side, which is underneath his protective arm. And he takes and he pulls a piece of Adam out, and he forms the woman, the bride for Adam out of his rib, right? Bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. It was a bloody mess. And then so God heals him, right? And then but he presents him this bride. Now I want you to think of Christ on the church and the Christ on the cross and the origin of the church. The fact that he's wounded in his side and that blood and water flow out from that around his heart, right? This is very significant. The fact that this blood and water comes out from around the sac from around his heart, and this is the church. This is the church coming out of Christ. This is very significant. It's very important that we think of this, because when we think of the value of the bride of Christ, what it cost him, and we think of our positions as pastors in protecting this bride, it is very, very significant that Matthew 9:15 tells us, God himself says that the sons of the bride chamber will fast. Fast is not meritorious, but God chooses to work through methods. And the method that he has chosen for the sons of the bride chamber, the people tasked with guarding that bride, is fasting, pouring themselves out for the afflicted, weeping between the porch and the altar. Fasting is it's mentioned 70 times in the Bible, and it's very significant. From the end, food, the Bible has to do with food, from the fall to the banquet that we're going to. And so it now is not the time for us to be comforted, and if I choose my satisfaction over God's, then I'm placing myself above God. So now is not the time for us to get garments in shekels of silver. So now is not the time for us to constantly satisfying the flesh. We need to crucify the flesh with its passions. We need to put on the full armor of God, the righteousness go before you, the glory of the Lord being your rear guard. We need to ride on these high hills of the land where the wisdom cries out. We need to allow God to make us this well-watered garden, because the gospel can be preached in word and power, or only in word. And we look around society, the degradation of society, it's clear that the gospel, these are victims of a gospel without the power of the Holy Spirit, because they have not allowed God to make them that well-watered garden.